Hey everyone, today is Friday, August 14th, and welcome to another very special live interview on X, simulcast on Reddit for viewers there, and rebroadcast on YouTube on many channels as well. And let me introduce myself. I'm Laptop Travel, multi-year veteran trader who's spent decades navigating every kind of market you can imagine, going back even before the crash of 1987. And these days I run an investment newsletter, conduct deep dive research, and work with the story trading Discord community, as well as for Gatewatch as an analyst, where we focus on the real stories that actually move the stocks, not just the noise. So please follow me on X for great stock picks and investing ideas. A quick disclaimer here today before we dive in: nothing said here today by me or our guest should be taken as investment advice or recommendation to buy, sell, or hold any security. This is for informational and entertainment purposes only. Always do your own due diligence and consult with a qualified financial advisor. Past performance is no guarantee of future results. Markets can be volatile. We have seen that, and you can lose money. So with that out of the way, I want to welcome everyone again to this live interview. I'm thrilled to introduce today's guest, Galiano Tiramani, the CEO and co-founder of Boxabl, trading now under the Nasdaq symbol BXBL. He's been here before, but this company is fast moving and changing. Galiano brings relentless entrepreneurial drive and hands-on execution to one of the most disruptive forces in the housing market today. As a co-founder alongside his father, Paolo, a prolific inventor and mechanical engineer himself, Galiano has guided Boxabl from an ambitious folding home concept to a fully operational, high-velocity manufacturing company with over 800 homes produced, a massive 400,000 square foot factory complex in Las Vegas, Nevada, strong retail investors backing for more than $235 million raised, and hundreds of thousands of customer inquiries. He continues to focus on ramping the company's factory output, advancing patented folding technology. Well, we'll talk about that. That's pretty interesting. It's the heart of what they do, and optimizing unit economics, and leading the company as a new public entity, as I said, traded on the Nasdaq. Boxabl is a integrated manufacturing powerhouse who's redefining how America builds homes and how people can look at affordable home ownership. It has patented foldable Casita and expanding phase 2 modular, kind of like a kit of parts platform. And it's built on an assembly line, if you can imagine that, building homes on an assembly line. And it ships efficiently on standard trucks and unfolds on the site in hours. And it delivers high quality, affordable living space at a fraction of traditional construction costs. This directly tackles the ongoing crisis in the U.S. housing sector. Following the successful completion of its business combination with FG Merger 2, Boxabl now trades on Nasdaq, as I said, under the ticker symbol BXBL, and is positioned to scale production even greater in the near future, expand their market reach, and capture a meaningful share of a multi-trillion-dollar opportunity in factory-built housing. So Galiano, again, welcome to the show. Love talking to you and about the product. We're pumped to dive into your vision for Boxabl, this revolutionary foldable home technology, your recent debut on Nasdaq, and love to hear exactly about what's ahead for solving America's housing crisis at scale.
Yeah, thanks, buddy. So as you know, we are Boxabl. We're building houses in the factory, and we started off the company with our flagship product, the Casita. So that's a small studio apartment with kitchen, bath, bedroom, couch, all finished in our factory, ships to site and sets up in just a day. You can see it there in the picture behind me. But beyond that, we're now launching a whole new product lineup. So you can actually see it on our website at boxabl.com/developers. And that's where the rest of our building system comes to life. So what we're doing differently is we've engineered a system of rooms that is mass produced in a standardized fashion in our factory and then connects together on site to create many, many and almost infinite different floor plans. So that way we can hit most of the different needs of different house types and apartments, but while still building the same thing in a repeatable manner in the factory. That's where we see really big savings and really big efficiencies to create a better solution for builders and developers so they can deploy projects faster and we can put out more houses that are definitely needed by the market, by the US, by the rest of the world. So, we've got those first units built in our factory of our new product lineup. And then eventually, we'll start seeing those dropping in the field in real projects. We've already got our first order on that. So that's, I believe, a 200 box order out of Texas. So hopefully soon we'll be seeing that project come to life, and that'll be really exciting.
Oh, that's great. So let's give a foundation to a lot of people who maybe it's their first time. I, I, I find that hard to believe because you've really been aggressive with getting the word out there, and we've tried to help. But can you share your personal background and your entrepreneurial journey to get here, and how that set you up, for success for leading this company?
Yeah, originally it was myself, my father Paolo, and Kyle. The three of us got this company going. And, I'm an entrepreneur. I've done a bunch of different stuff. I had two of my more successful businesses before this, which was one was marijuana and the other was Bitcoin. So I hit those right with really good timing in the market when there was huge opportunities in those spaces. And then eventually I moved on to housing because it was just such a huge upside here with such potentially large business if we get it right. So, I'm an expert at diving in to a niche, learning everything there is to know about it, figuring out the angle, and then pushing on all the important points to make something come alive. Paolo and Kyle are both experts at 3D solid modeling on the computer. So engineers who design products with 3D modeling on the computer. And Kyle has a background in building construction. And Paolo actually built a house using traditional modular many years ago. He experienced all the issues with that type of building and then decided to, do it a better way, figure out a better way to do it. That was where he first came up with the folding invention. And the folding is really important because that's what enables us to actually mass produce. The trick with housing is they're very big. Houses are very big. So because of that, you can't really put them on a truck, build them in a factory, put them on a truck and drive them out to site. That's why most houses are built on site. It's either that or they're building these smaller or compromised buildings that ship as a wide load, so are very expensive to ship. And when it's too expensive to ship from the factory, that's why you end up building on site. So for us, our solution was to make it affordable to ship so that the factory could mass produce at scale. And when we're talking scaled mass production, we're talking about the scale that the automobile makers build cars. A Ford factory, a Tesla factory, they're putting out one car every minute or less. Actually, I think it's for the Ford F-150. There's a great video on YouTube. It's 53 seconds Ford F-150, and it shows you how their factory puts a car out every minute. And when you put a car down the assembly line that fast, you destroy the labor costs. You crush the labor costs. You push them down where it's next to nothing. That's critical. That's what we're trying to achieve with Boxabl. So we've set out to solve all the friction points that made that not possible, that made it not work in the factory, that will allow the biggest industry in the world, housing, to transition through into the industrial revolution. Every single modern product is built in the factory. Housing's not, for the most part. So we're set out to make that work and to make mass produced housing in a factory on a scale that's never been attempted before.
Yeah. I have to pause for a moment and say, you must be wearing a lot of different hats in the company. Can you just briefly touch, because I know that you got to be involved in marketing, because some of the posts that you sent out there and the videos, very cute, very clever, and and I think they reveal to a lot of people, investors, where your vision is going. I know we talked last time about the lunar one, but you just put another one out there. I think you had like I don't know how many floors, but it's like a 10 or 12-story building built with this phase two. But can you just briefly talk about the different roles that now you are are actively involved in on a daily basis? And of course, now that you're a publicly traded company, I know you're very involved in the launch of that on the Nasdaq.
Yeah, I mean, we're the small team. We're all wearing many hats, all of us, and especially me. So I'm really, doing everything under the sun, heavily focused on marketing and capital raising. Those are things we've done really well. I also contributed to the engineering of the product, figuring out what's the best way to build these, what are the best materials to use that solve our problems, what's the best equipment to accomplish that, and just dialing in that product market fit to figure out exactly what product should we be building first to get things going. So I do a lot of different things at the company.
Okay. So would you sum up what is your core mission and long-term vision for transforming housing construction? Because now it seems you're attacking several different markets, not just private home residential. I know that I think you just recently stayed at Horizons, like I don't know how to describe that, but it's like a
Yeah. So one of
getaway.
our customers is called Go Horizons. They do glamping vacations. So this
Glamping.
particular location was in North or South Carolina. They have, kind of a nice piece of property with some trails on a lake with sauna and bikes and kayaks and all this kind of cool stuff. And our product was perfect for them to deploy little houses for people to stay in when they're on vacation. So I decided to go check it out. I took my family. They gave us 2 casitas. So my wife and our 4 kids, we stayed in the casitas, and it was really cool to see the product in action like that. And I love those guys. They have plans to do many more projects with us.
Yeah. So putting that together, where do you see your long-term vision now for the Boxabl brand?
Well, certainly to date, a lot of people have associated us with tiny houses because our first product was a smaller house, but that's
Sure.
not the long-term vision for the company. This is a housing solution. And frankly, we're more than just a house manufacturer. We need to provide the full suite of services to solve housing, and that goes beyond just manufacturing. So that's why we recently put out a press release and a section on our website talking about mergers and acquisitions, where we want to find companies that fit our mission and allow us to inorganically grow and fill in the blanks. Everything from maybe the developer that deploys the house to the software that might support it to the property management company to land, all that stuff. We want all of that to be part of Boxabl to help vertically integrate and offer the full solution we need to fix housing. So that's what we're trying to achieve next. And the first product, Casita, was a means to an end to proving things out, to getting the manufacturing going. But now we've released the rest of the product lineup for our building system. So again, that's on the developers page of the website, and you can see that we're advertising single family homes, apartments, all kind of different stuff there. So hopefully we'll launch some projects like that soon. And our factory is a big factory, can do quite a lot of houses, out of that factory once it's up and running full speed. And those orders are coming in, and that factory is ramping up. So it's going to be really exciting in the next year or two. Hopefully we'll get some of these bigger projects going where we're actually building a full little village or subdivision.
So the new, I know I referred to it as phase two. Is that what you're calling this, or do you have a different a product line or product name for that?
We're just calling it phase two in general. The actual product itself, it's a marketed towards developers or people who want to do larger projects. We're not doing like, direct to retail with the rest of that system just yet. So we're looking for larger customers. So,
Sure.
we're advertising it to people who want to do larger developments and, 50 plus homes per development.
Yeah. Now you talked about you're a small team. But how do you manage all these different contact points? So like direct to consumer sales, your dealer networks you're working on, business to business, commercial products that you just touched on, and potential developer services. Putting all that together, and and certainly you're not doing this all yourself. You've got to have a team under you handling those contact points, correct?
Yeah. Right now we have kind of two divisions of sales. One is our retail direct to consumer, somebody who wants one ADU for their backyard. And then everything else for the larger projects goes to a different division of our sales team. And then the rest of these lead forms and email on our website just comes in. Our customer service looks at it and then it gets forwarded to the appropriate person at the company.
Okay. Um, so for people who don't know, can you just walk us through the flagship Casita project or product? Give give viewers an idea of what the size is. I know they see the picture in the background, but living space, what features it comes with, and if you can offer a price, and what's included in the whole project or the product that they buy if someone buys a Casita.
Well, right now the Casita is a 361 square foot little apartment with kitchen, bathroom, bed, couch. Everything's done: electric, plumbing, windows, flooring, all that, paint, even refrigerator, oven. All that is done in the unit. We sell that for 60,000 by itself, or if they want an all inclusive package where it is. Delivered, installed, permitted, set up. I believe, I'm going to double check on the website right now. I believe that all inclusive price for a standard job is about $140,000.
Okay. Um, now that again, I'm really impressed with, and I appreciate also with humbleness all the different responsibilities that you have at the company. But now that you've been trading on Nasdaq for several weeks, how has this transition uh, really affected you, like in fundraising and also with communication with uh, current investors and potential investors?
Well, things are changing a little bit because previously we were doing crowdfunding, so going after retail investors who are interested in investing a small check size to the company. But now we're going to be going through like an investment bank, trying to raise larger capital around from institutional investors, and I hope that frees up my time so that I can stop focusing on crowdfunding and
Sure.
focus more on the fundamentals of the company. So that's what I'm really excited about, and that's really important.
Yeah, absolutely efficient use of your time and resources. So originally, the company carried I believe, a $3.5 billion valuation. So looking at post listing trading, the range and volatility, what's your current assessment of how the market is pricing your long term opportunity versus the near term execution risks? Uh,
Yeah, I don't think I should really talk about like stock price. I might get in trouble for that, but I guess, it's still very, very early. So it takes time for the dust to settle and for us to hit various milestones. But I think what we're seeing playing out is the economics of the SPAC. So the SPAC brings, another mix into the situation. If we had just gone public purely as Boxabl, I think we would have seen a different outcome. But instead of that, we had to go the SPAC route, so we had to end up bringing in these other investors that were in it for different reasons. So you have things like the rights, and redemptions and all that kind of plays
Sure.
into how things end up after you start trading. But I don't really want to say too much on that.
Yeah, and I know you have to be in this probably a little bit thick-skinned. I've seen some recent posts from you. I know that you've attracted a wide range of online commentary, even critical voices, and and it's amazing how resilient you are. I even saw an exchange like "hit me with your best shots," and but still keeping a positive attitude to the company. How has that? How does that affect you in your day-to-day dealings with, sometimes dealing with the negativity, knowing that this, nothing's easy. As they say, Rome wasn't built in a day.
Yeah, I think that since we started the company, no matter what stage we were at, there were people talking shit and saying crazy, horrific things, saying you're going to fail, you're a scam, you're this, you're that. And we've always come through, proven them wrong, being successful, figured things out. So that, will continue to happen at every stage of the company. No matter how well you're doing, there can be someone saying that there's something wrong. Um,
Yeah.
so, I welcome it. What the haters don't understand is that the more attention they give us, the more they help our algorithm, and the more people see it. So, it's a good sign, that people even care enough. And frankly, a lot of them are confused. A lot of them don't see uh, the big vision and understand what we're trying to do. So I welcome their criticism. If there's something that we're doing wrong and they point it out, I'll be happy to address it and fix it or take accountability. But at the end of the day, we're always working hard. We're always trying to do the right thing. We've always disclosed up front that this was a very hard problem that we're trying to solve, that frankly is doesn't have great odds of being a big success. There's a high likelihood that we could fail completely, and that's normal. That's what you expect. But I don't see many other companies ending up doing an IPO, being successful, raising capital, turning on a massive factory, putting out hundreds of units. Many other people have tried to do modular construction and failed at a far earlier stage than we have. And here we are, alive, strong, feel like we're better, more well-positioned than we ever have. And, certain criticisms that people have are correct. And that's the whole point of this. There's problems with this industry, with this market, with these products. And that's the whole reason we're doing this, is to solve those problems. If those problems didn't exist, then we wouldn't be here doing this, because somebody would have done it already, and there wouldn't be that opportunity. So,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
there's a mix of criticisms. Some of them are legitimate issues that we've had with the company, and or mistakes that have been made, or problems. Fine. We're here trying to solve those problems. Some of them are people that completely misunderstand and are inaccurate and putting out false information. And then, other mix of commentary in there as well. But I think that a lot of people, what happens is they come into the Boxabl story, they think it's amazing, great. First time they find out about it, they're so excited. Then they hear something bad. Maybe true, maybe not true. And then they freak out a little bit. Then a few months passes, and guess what? Boxabl either overcomes the issue, or they find out it's not real, or whatever. And then after that, they're kind of battle hardened. And that's where the investors and the fans end up. They end up battle hardened, because then the next time, a wrench comes into the gears, they realize, don't worry about it. We're going to cruise right through this. And so, you end up with people either getting scared and running away, or becoming battle hardened. So, pretty cool. And, like I said, I welcome the criticism and suggestions. What I don't like is people being belligerent and disrespectful online and inappropriate. Those people, I'll sue them. I'll ban them. I'll report them. Whatever I can do. And, they can think twice before they mess with us, because I have, gotten revenge on people, and I do have a list. We've done stuff to people before. We've sued people before, and we've won. I've got quite a few battles under my belt to date. So, go ahead and attack us, but be careful. I'm here defending not just myself lastly. I'm defending my family, my coworkers, my investors, my customers, all the people that stand to gain from this. If they weren't here, I would just ignore it and disappear. But they're here, so I'm going to fight for that, and fight very, very, very aggressively. So, people can go ahead and look at our litigation history before they want to go ahead and spread misinformation that damages the people that we're working for.
You talked about raising money, funding, and going to investment banks and more commercial investment. And you also talked about the company looking forward to these new projects on phase 2. What do you think in the next 12 to 8 months is going to most influence the valuation of the company? What major milestone, like you said?
Oh, I can't talk about that. That's that would be, scary territory for me to talk about what the company should be worth. But like milestones of the company, the big one is, we've got a big factory that's being underutilized. We need to fill it up with orders. So we're making decisions that are going to allow that to happen. We're putting in improvements. We're tweaking our sales process. We're getting regulatory approvals, and we're grinding through it. And we are seeing sales and orders come in, and that factory is going to keep ramping up. So, there's that. And then they're successfully launching the new product line. Hopefully the first project we do goes through without any significant issues. That'll be a big deal. And then hopefully at the end of that project, the numbers crunch. And they crunch in such a way that we have a case study that is so far ahead of what anyone else can come close to, that everybody sees it, thinks, who knows what they're talking about, thinks, oh shit, these guys cracked the code. We cracked the code. And I know what's going on under the hood. I know, what the claims are, the ones I say and the ones I don't say, about how good this thing really is. And I believe we've cracked the code. And I believe that, as time goes on and people see that, and we have successful projects, and we have some wins, people are going to end up looking at this projects, looking at the numbers, looking at how fast they were deployed, the amount of issues there were, comparing that to regular construction. And the guys that know what they're talking about, the builders, the developers, they're going to think, oh shit, I better jump on board with these guys and buy this product, because otherwise I'm not going to be able to compete. Because if another player comes into the neighborhood and builds using Boxabl and sells those projects for less than me, and they're better quality, better features in the homes, there's no chance I'm going to be able to compete with that, especially if it takes me 10 times as long or 3 times as long or double as long to deploy.
Okay. Yeah. A question is on the new phase 2. A question is: are these simply casitas being stacked when we have these multi-level like apartment buildings or whatever, or is it actually a completely different product that you're running through the factory?
Well, kind of a combination of both, but really mostly it's all new. So the idea was start with the smallest box in our system. That's the 20 by 20. And then also have the 20 by 30 and the 20 by 40. And with those 3 box sizes, we can connect them to get most floor plans anyone's going to need, for whatever the most common type of single family house is or whatever else. So we did start with a roughly a 20 by 20 box. And we are now releasing larger box sizes, but there's been a lot of other changes too. Really a whole reimagining of it, because what we're running with now, what we're producing, is what me, Kyle, and Paolo came up with before we had any knowledge, any experience, had done anything. It's the same product that we dreamt up, that we're running with now. There's a few tweaks, but overall it's the same thing. But versus the new phase 2 stuff, even the replacement for the 20 by 20 box that's currently the Casita, does use all new building materials, all new manufacturing methods. There are tweaks to the design. We did increase the ceiling height. We did increase the box size. We did make it easier to get through regulatory approvals. We increased the structural strength, the wind rating, the energy rating, a whole list. Like on almost every front, what we have now is better by a lot. So we're really excited to roll that out. The phase two stuff, and most importantly, I think the numbers crunch on it.
Yeah. I know that we talked before about regulations and regulatory approvals is a big obstacle for the company, but at the same time is an advantage because because you're replicating the same product, so a lot of inspections and building code questions and how things are assembled and produced and wired or with plumbing, everything remains the same. So it's just a matter of paperwork, I imagine. So I know that recent progress in California and Texas, I believe. Can you talk about other states that you think are going to come online next with approval?
We are pursuing new state approvals. I'm not going to comment on which ones
Okay.
just yet, but I think our focus for the direct to consumer, which is where we need the approvals first, we're kind of good on that already. Like the majority of ADUs is California. There's other states coming online with laws, and as those laws come online, we'll get approved so we can go direct to consumer without any time crunch. But in general, we can sell anywhere, because if somebody comes with a big project in a state that we're not approved yet, we'll say, sure, let's go ahead with it. We know we're going to get approved. They go ahead, they start, get the land, get the entitlements, get the financing. There's a lot of work to be done. And while that work's being done, before we produce anything, we can go ahead and get that approval. So we kind of run it in tandem. So, mostly for the direct to consumer ADU product, there's a few approvals in the pipeline for states where that's becoming more popular, but none of them, even if they legalize it somewhere, it's not going to grow that quickly, that fast. There's plenty of demand in California for that, so we're ramping up marketing efforts there. And then for the larger projects, if somebody comes in a new state, we'll just get that approval as needed, no problem. We do have some big states. We did just get Texas, so that's where we're doing one of our first projects at.
Yeah. So beyond the Casita and phase 2, can you talk a little bit about the baby box? And are you still as bullish on that project as you were, say, a couple of months ago?
Yeah, I think the baby box is great. It's definitely a cool product that's going to sell. Do I think it's like the biggest, most impactful thing ever? No. How big's the market for a little small tiny house on wheels? That's basically an RV. I think that it's cool because it is something that we can manufacture, inventory, and then sell and ship out really quickly, that we can finance really easily, that there can be less of a long sales cycle on when someone buys it. So from that perspective, it's cool for us. I think there's a cap on how big it gets. More interested and excited about the rest of the product lineup. But we'll launch that eventually, and they'll be selling. They'll be going out there. People doing videos on them. I think that will serve almost more of a marketing product, because it will get people coming across us. Because I think a lot of people will do kind of user-generated content on it.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but that's not geographically constricted, right? You can pretty much sell that product to any one of the 50 states.
Yeah, the way I understand it is that we would get approved in our home state with the DMV, and then people would buy it, and then they could ship it anywhere they want. So and the approvals, there's not much as far as approvals on that. It's like a registration and a few other things, and then you're good to go. It's nothing compared to doing a building department or a state building program.
Okay. Now, you've talked before about AI and factory automation. How important is this in the future? And how much are you focusing on even being more automated in the future to help you ramp up production, especially with your phase 2 projects?
We are looking at equipment right now, but I'm, much less focused on automation. I think automation comes in at the very end to increase efficiencies. I think before that, you want to make sure your manufacturing process is really not going to change before you put in any custom automation. And the most important thing before that is to have a large scaled assembly line, heavier on labor. You're still going to beat out site construction by a lot on the labor, and you're going to be able to use unskilled labor. But we have a certain amount of off-the-shelf automation, like a CNC cutter. But any type of custom stuff, I think we've got a lot of work to do. I think we can do scaled mass production long before we ever do automation.
Okay. Are you able to talk about the cost of goods sold? The cost that goes into a Casita versus the selling price, and net profit, or
I wouldn't really
loss?
mention it because we have our phase 2 stuff. We know what we think it's going to cost, but we haven't really done it at scale yet. So things could change quite a lot. So I don't want to say numbers, and I think also those numbers should come out formally through our accounting in the SEC filings versus me commenting on them.
Okay. And here's another question from a viewer who says that you have experience in the past with Bitcoin, and you've explored or implemented elements of a Bitcoin treasury strategy in the past. Do you have a current policy? Does the company have a current policy on holding digital assets, or working around such frameworks in the future?
I think there's a bunch of different ways we can leverage that to raise money, to get mortgages going, to tokenize our securities, all those types of things. I'm all over it, and I'll jump on them as it's appropriate. I think that's great. I definitely have experience in it. And, another cool thing I was thinking about is when you're mining Bitcoin, you're generating heat. So pretty efficiently, you're just generating heat. That's like the cost. That's where the spent electricity ends up. So I think you can use that as a heating source, and then get Bitcoin as a side effect. So I was thinking about putting a Bitcoin heater in the house. That'd be cool.
Yeah. Okay. I just read somewhere that some plant in the world has a desalination plant, and they're using the heat from some kind of crypto mining to provide heat for the desalination process. It's kind of a weird thing, but how do you where are you today on customer experience, delivery timelines, from the point of order to the point of delivery, with, let's say, with the Casita and the baby box? Where would you see? And I don't think you've had any deliveries yet of the baby box, and correct me if I'm wrong on that.
No, we haven't delivered any babies yet, but the Casita, it's in stock, ready to ship. The long lead time is onboarding the customer, getting the building department approval. And, we have our first projects going out. So, our second project with that same building department, I expect it'll be more expedited.
Okay. Do you see, given your experience with the company and, your really solid track record, do you see people trying to enter the market and compete on the same concept level?
No, I think that, doing what we're doing is really, really expensive, very capital intensive. So that limits the players a lot. Beyond that, what are they going to do differently? There's a huge learning curve there. You need some kind of innovation to make it work. I don't see anyone else who's figured anything out. And I know how grueling it is to actually figure it out and make it work. So I don't see that anyone could jump ahead of us. And I've never even heard anyone else talking about, really true factory mass production of housing. We've got other guys doing modular out there, but it's the same, formula that's failed for years and years and years. The list of failed modular factories is crazy. If you ask Rock to list the failed modular factories, the list is ridiculous. Like, it's one of these categories that so many people have tried and failed at that it looks crazy when you look at it. And here we are, still alive.
That's great. And for our viewers, when was the first foldable house built?
I'm not sure exactly, but Paolo, he originally had the idea long before
Well, I meant
Boxabl was
yours.
invented.
That's what I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I meant your house.
Yeah, I think that we did the prototype was around 2021, 2020, something like that. It was the first prototype for the builder show.
Okay.
And we started out building not the Casita, the 20 by 20. We actually started out with the full single family house, the 20 by 40, two 20 by 40 boxes connected together.
Yeah. And now that you're you're working with your father in like a co-CEO role, right? How does that dynamic strengthen the company? What do you draw from that relationship, which is a unique strength for Boxabl moving forward?
Well, it's really great to have, somebody on your team who you're so well aligned with, who you can just absolutely trust, who trains you, growing up as a person. And, then our skill sets are, very complementary. We're both working on different things. So it's really great.
Yeah. Yeah. And if we look at a big concern is look at the broader housing affordability crisis, right? That's obviously clear across the country. And like an estimated, I've estimated it asking a $2 trillion market, uh, for this foldable house technology and product line. You know, what policy or regulatory changes would you like to see, maybe at the state level or maybe federal? Maybe federal would help, to help you accelerate even further your addressable market.
Hopefully they can set up a way that we can get approved for the whole country in one shot instead of having to go state by state, because it's one product, it's one country. There's no reason to get it looked at 50 times.
Okay. Inventory management has involved some write downs of slow moving units. What's the current finished goods and work in progress position, and the strategy for converting any aged inventory for Boxabl?
I'm not going to comment too detailed on that, but what did happen was some of the early units we built were pre modular approval, so those need to be kind of re-inspected under the state regulatory program. It depends where they go. Some places you can send them without them having been inspected under the current program. Some places they need to be re-inspected, or the build needs to be tweaked to meet the code. And we do have some old units that were built for projects that ended up going defunct. So we kind of learned our lesson on that you don't build anything custom unless you get full payment upfront, because then you can't reuse it for another project.
Okay, sure, absolutely. Now, a lot of the company, once you produce the product, you still have shipping and installation, site preparation, and all that. Are you trying to do that directly with the consumers, or have you implemented or thought about getting dealers or an installer network, maybe statewide or nationwide, as a way to facilitate that and streamline that process?
That's one where actually I can't comment on that. Yeah, I can't comment on that. Sorry.
Okay. But I
I'll tell you
think
why.
I've seen That's all right. I see that you have. I think I saw a post where you were actually seeking out perhaps dealers in other countries. Is that correct?
Well, we're always talking to people in different countries who have issues. We do have a partnership in the UK where they're trying to pioneer modular construction. So we'll see where we get some traction over there.
Yeah. Do you have any other markets that come to mind to you that you think would be a really easy sale if you could get past the regulatory, powers that might be?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure once we really dial in our system, it'll get looked at more and more seriously by the international players.
Yeah. Yeah. One that comes to mind for me is like the Caribbean. I mean, I would think a lot of those islands. You talk about Go Horizons with their glamping, but you could do. I think there's a great opportunity in the Caribbean countries, um, and
Yeah, I think they have labor issues there. We need to get the remove the labor from the equation to make it easier to build.
yeah. Um, and now that you're a publicly traded company, um, where are you spending most of your efforts on in increasing shareholder value, and are you actively seeking retail shareholders, or are you still courting like private investors and investment banks?
Well, I'm spending a lot of my time the uh, on sales, on refining the sales right now, especially the direct to consumer sales process. You'll see there's a lot of changes happening on our website. So, once that's dialed in and that's humming and we're getting a certain amount of, new orders in the pipeline per week, I'll feel happy about that and I'll be able to move on, the bulk of my efforts elsewhere. But we're implementing a lot of cool stuff on that to really build up, that sales process.
Okay. Research and development continues on your next generation designs and materials. Can you talk about what are your highest priority R&D work streams right now that could materially lower your cost, expand your configuration options, and improve energy performance? And what is your expected priorities in R&D going forward?
Really, the main thing is just pushing these new products across the finish line. And then we'll have a lot of tweaks when we go from idea to reality once they actually get deployed. Because we've gone through a big curve of R&D, and now we're at the end of it. And now we're going to push these things into real life. And then we'll have the final touches after that. And then we'll open it up more for
Okay.
customers.
A question from a viewer is uh, with the foldable houses, when they're delivered on site, there's several panels, walls, I guess, which fold out with a hinge. Is how do you seal that, or is that necessary to seal that? I think you're
Yeah.
talking about making it weatherproof or waterproof, right?
Yeah. So we use a gasket
Yeah.
and like an end cap that comes together kind of like a car door, and then you also put flashing tape like a regular building has.
Okay. All right. Um, can you uh, Can you talk about your recent that you mentioned your recent sale of 200 units in Texas, and what does that look like? What's the intended purpose of that end user?
So that's a landowner developer who's selling off his land and sold off a few portions of it to developers, and then decided to actually develop on his own a part of it using our product. So that's a really great partner to have for this um, you know, first deployment of our new product line.
So that's like a residential subdivision.
Yep, exactly.
Okay, and what do those look like? Is that like a two-story casita? Is it two side by side, or
I'm not sure exactly the layout, but I know it's two boxes each. So probably maybe like about 1,200 square feet or more. I'm not sure exactly what the final floor plan is.
Okay. And are you able to talk about inquiries? Since you've gone public as a company, what has been, certainly even your name is even more widely seen. How has that impacted inquiries from retailers?
Honestly, we haven't gotten really that much press or attention on the whole going public thing. So, hopefully that'll trickle out soon and we'll get more and more excitement on it. But, we didn't really get, huge reception with the press or anything on IPO day. So we'll just wait until it comes to us.
Okay. And I know that we talked before about, I know I brought up, I think, Alaska or northern states with the weather. Can you talk a little bit about, we're not going to talk about the weather, but talk about the individual obstacles and barriers that you see as a company, state by state? Can you just talk about
Well,
how
if you're talking
frustrating that might be?
Alaska, yeah, I think Alaska is cool because that's a place where you're going to really have a hard time finding the contractors and the labor to build something. So getting it done off site can give you a big advantage. We'd love to do a project there. They might have some special requirements for adding insulation on, but apart from that, the product works there. So, there's different special situations going on everywhere that modular can help fill in the gaps with.
Yeah. Um, can you briefly touch on the issues sometimes that you see that are frustrating to you with, maybe I'm assuming that the biggest obstacle is state regulation, right? What things frustrate you where it seems like, my gosh, this should be so simple, but it's much harder than it has to be to get this product approved in a state?
Well, in general, the way buildings are allowed and approved is just kind of outrageous. You expect to live in a free country where you can buy land and do what you want with it, but you can't. You have to go by zoning. You have to get building approvals. It's very unfortunate. It creates a huge extra cost where that shouldn't exist. The amount of fees people pay alone just to build a building is crazy. The fact that you're engaging with this government bureaucracy on this product, no other product has this level of government involvement in it, of micromanaging through the whole process. And that's something we think having a big brand that's proven, that's handling it, that's well known, well trusted, can really help streamline things, because the building departments are right now responding to lots of small little players that they feel need to be micromanaged for the public safety. And I think if you bring in a big company to take over that, you can really lighten the load on those regulators.
Absolutely. Now, let me know if I missed anybody, but I my current list for you is approvals is Arizona, California, Nevada, that's your home state, New Mexico, Texas, and I believe South Carolina. That's where Horizons Getaways or Go Horizons was.
Yeah, I
Did,
think
did I
I
miss
think
the
we can.
state?
Yeah, I think we can build as well in Connecticut, Oklahoma, uh, New York, Vermont, a few others as well. But and like I said, for the bigger projects, we can look at projects in any state, because we just go ahead and get the approval as needed.
Wow. Oh, that's really good. And you also, as I understand, you can ship and install in many other states when there's like no full statewide modular program. Is that correct? Is that fair?
Yeah. Some states don't have the modular program, so we just go straight to the building department. That's really the best situation, because then we're just treated like a regular builder. So we like that. I think that's a great way to do it.
Okay. Now, was since Nevada is your home state, was Nevada like easy, a slam dunk for you?
No, Nevada dragged their feet for many years, tortured us until we had to escalate the matter to the governor. We went to Governor Lombardo's office, explained to him what was going on, and then a week later, we were approved by magic. He went into his building office and said, "What's going on, guys?" And they said, "Well, I assume," they said, "we don't have any legitimate reason to slow these guys down, and that's why they approved us after he nudged them." And that kind of proved to me that what they were doing, frankly, was nefarious, and that they shouldn't have been doing it. Because if we weren't doing something right to get that approval, they should have said to the governor, "Well, no, Boxabl has to do this." But that's not what happened. They said, once the governor came and knocked on their door and said, "Hey guys, hey employees, what's going on here?" They said, "Sorry, my bad. We'll get them approved." So that pointed to me that they weren't doing what they were supposed to be doing. And it's just another example of that happening. It's happened all over the place for us. We'll fight through it. We'll bust through it, and then we'll be wide open in those places. And as our product gets more well known and accepted, it'll be less of an issue, and it'll end up being to our benefit.
Great. As you look at the phase 2 project and how that could scale, we have a question: is the current factory 400,000 square feet? Is that ideal for how long, or for how many units in the foreseeable future, I guess?
Yeah, I don't want to mention the exact number of units that we think it can do, but it can do thousands of units out of that factory. That factory will be transitioned ideally all over to phase 2, and we'll be running all the products on one assembly line, whether it's a Casita model or a larger box model. It'll all be running down that same assembly line.
And then a question I would have is, if you ever go to international markets, say like the UK or something like that, a large market, let's say a large market, would you necessarily need to build some kind of factory and do country on-site construction?
Yeah, I think that shipping out of the country doesn't really make sense for this product. We've done it before, but I think that you want to have a local factory in most cases, because they are big products that are hard to ship.
Okay. Well, we're just almost out of time for today's interview and presentation. I hope everybody gets something out of this. I want to give you an opportunity for just a few final words before we wrap it up. I'll give you the floor. Anything you'd like to say to your viewers, your current shareholders, and prospective shareholders?
Yeah, thanks everyone for tuning in. Thank you for your interest and your support. We are grinding away every day, all day, to make this a big success. Please check out our social media, our YouTube, and look at what we've been working on lately. We have posting our new projects and stuff on there, so you can keep tabs on it. And please visit our factory in Las Vegas.
Yeah. I would say, folks, you definitely check out the website. There's a lot of cool stuff there. If you're on X, check out the videos and posts that they make. They're very educational, very entertaining. So I want to thank you again, Galiano, for taking time to join us today and providing even more answers and insightful thoughts about the company and Boxabl's progress, your leadership, your barriers to success, let's say, and your path forward in this rapidly evolving pre-manufactured housing market. And this is not an endorsement to buy or selling security. You have to do your own research, folks. And please check out their website. There's a lot of information on Boxabl's website. And it's pretty impressive, by the way. And with clearly a lot of expertise in the company, and that's presented well as well. They have a very capable management team, lots of proprietary technology, and I'm sure a slew of patents that goes along with that, right?
That's right. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you so much. We appreciate it. Till next time.
Bye.